So here I am just sanding away, getting all those high spots down. I'm using 220 grit paper, and then come back with the last pass of 320 for a nice smooth finish. And then after that, I'm ready to install my little handles. And these handles are from guitar cabinets, so that's kind of where I got the idea. And they have a nice 1/2 inch lip or overhang, so when I had a route out, I knew I didn't have to be super professional, so I just freehand it, and then the lip of that handle kind of hid any defects. So I'm using a plunge router with a 1/2 inch bit, so I'm just doing a whole bunch of small passes, and then you figure out the right depth you need to get a flush mount, and then you just screw it down. And on this one, I kind of used the logic of overkill. Like, these handles are way more powerful than I need them to be as far as the spring and the tension that they could hold, but I just figured I like the way they looked and they're rugged, and best part is they're black, so it looks cool. So on this, attaching the base piece to the side, I put a bead of glue down, rest the side up, and then I use brad nails to tack it in place, kind of like a clamp, and then I come back with my drill and I do countersunk screws, and I just basically screw it down and lock it in place. So that's what you see me doing there with the corded drill, and then the little DeWalt drill is the one I'm actually driving the screws with. And then I'm doing all my pre-drilling for the acrylic. You always want to make sure you have a piece behind it to, first off, just give you a really clean hole, but then also not to risk cracking it with the pressure. So I have a scrap piece of MDF behind it, and I'm just running through all my holes with that. And then now I'm at the point where I'm ready to install it. So I kind of get it centered in all the areas I want and clamp it down. And temporarily I use these blocks, these little small blocks you see cut on the table, and I use that with just brad nails to help guide it. And I'm thinking long term I like the way it looked, but really it just is a ledge for dust to land on, so I went in and just removed them in my final project. But the only thing holding the acrylic glass up is some screws, and then I went back, I didn't film it, but I went back and added a silicone bead to make that glass airtight. And then here I am just doing the lid, which is the same concept of how I did the base. And then here I'm getting ready to set things up for the doors. So I use these temporary scrap hinges I have, and I realized that they're not quite the size I wanted, so you'll see I'll come back and I bought piano hinges right there. They only had brass, so I'm gonna come and paint them, but I like the continuous hinge aspect where from floor to top it's one solid sturdy hinge. And then I bought them a little bit longer than I need, so I just simply cut them off using a cutoff disc, and then sanded it down at 220, so that way I can have a nice contact for the paint to adhere to. So I go outside, it's a nice day, there's not a lot of wind going on, so I'll just spray it. I did the face down first and then the front side, and then I bend the hinge on both directions to make sure you get all those weird little creases and hidden angles. And I'm just using a matte black paint to kind of match the handles I put on. So just like that. It dries pretty quick, pretty easy. And now I'm just making a little spacer for my cart, so that way when I put the router on top of the cart that it sits flush. And that's basically all I'm doing, just cutting a bunch of scrap pieces out. So on the bottom of the cart, I wanted to build that sled that comes out. So I'm building little like sidewalls that are at least the height of the sled, so when I set it on my cart, the sled doesn't drag on the base of the cart. So that's all I'm doing there. I just kind of got some pieces and then glued them, brad nailed them, and then countersunk them in. And this is me making a little sled part. I put a nice piece of trim on the outside to hide it, and then here I am just screwing in the little hinge setup. It's that cheap, just a wheel-based drawer slide. So that was not too bad. Now I'm ready to lift the box on top of my cart. it was kind of awkward to carry, so I had to take the doors off, which was fine because I want to reinstall the doors with the new hinge anyways. So in this stage of the game, I am about to put the back on, so I'm just adding on some bottom cleats to drive in some big screws. So that's all I'm doing there. And then I have the sheet up. I'll put my thing of glue down, and I'll probably just brad nail one of the corners in. And then once I have the corners in, then I can come back and screw it down just like everything else with the countersunk pre-screw or pre-drill, and then screw it in. And I'm just using the pocket hole screws that are 1.25 inches long for all my attaching. And then I'm attaching the new hinges. Pretty easy. Attach the hinge first and then hold the door up against it and then screw it to the door. On the door themselves, I use the longer screws because you're drilling into a thick piece of wood. And then on this, I'm doing the magnets that hold the doors closed. You see, I don't use those anymore. I use the circle hinges because it's a lot more snug. So I'm just kind of demoing with you right now what the lighting look like, and then I'll break down a little close-up video of really the aspect of the lighting. Alright, I know she's a little messy, but I'll go ahead and do the demo of the lights. So this is kind of what it looks like turned off. There's all my mess. So I have 2 dimmer switches. So this is the main roof lighting, and then this is the halo light that's on the tool itself. So this is just the rope light, and I kind of did a zigzag action going on, and I feel like it really just lights up the cabinet and it reflects off the acrylic really nice. And I just used little clips to attach them. Now these have the sticky pad on the back, but I just put those on as a safety feature just to make sure they didn't fall off, because I know this cabinet gets pretty hot in the summertime here in Arizona. That's that. I have the halo light, which really nicely illuminates the work area. So I have another one of those ordered for the second cabinet. But that's the lighting. So I really like it. I would encourage you guys to do the LED strips. These are the waterproof version, so it has a nice gel protective kind of layer over it. But so far so good. No complaints with it. And then here's the new and approved air box. So we'll go ahead and run through some pictures of me building this new model. So here's the fan holes. I just used a jigsaw to cut the holes out, and then the fan insets in with clear silicone to hold it in place. Here's a picture of the old lame one. It wasn't enough of a barrier for sound, so this big guy comes in and blocks all the sound coming out of the machine, and I also can push in a lot more CFM through the top with these little 3-inch fans. So 2 fans to the 1 5-inch fan was a good ratio, and then I insulated it with just padding, so it really gives you a nice tight seal. And that's basically the gist of the system. I'm just kind of showing you how I'm hiding the wires and whatnot, but that's pretty much it. So the last little feature of this cabinet, I mean, there's a lot of other mods that I've added, but that was where I've kind of adapted from my second box. So we'll go over to complete this would be the shop vac. So how I have this set up is I'm just running PVC through here and then using the lock line flex hose to pretty much catch all the sawdust, and I have this loop through using a bungee cord as a nice like suspender that gives me some play. But I have this oriented to where I go there's no resistance on the tool or router itself, and then I just have this going at the side of the box, and then it fits right over my sled that I added in. So the vac goes throughout there, all around into the dust collection. And right now I have one master and then one for each machine, because this is the bigger shop vac. Let me see if I can show you. So it's got enough horsepower to easily do both of these. and then it just goes into the separator. So pretty easy peasy. There's a lot of tricks I did on this cabinet that I don't use anymore, like the sled here. This was for my laptop, my little cheat sheet when I was first learning it. But now it's a new setup with 2 machines. This is definitely, I've got the manufacturing stuff down to a science. But this is the sled feature, and the reason I have this feature on, that way I can access anything for cleaning or repairs or doing tool changes easier, or even just checking my parts. I have a lot of extra freedom. I don't have to actually get inside the machine to maintenance anything. So that's gonna be the end of the video. I mean, I can go on and do like another 40-minute video on this, but I think I'll save all the new features for when I go over the build on this one. So for the time being, I am going to clock out. So that will be all, my friends. Stay tuned if you want to see that second build and all those new features I added. Later.